Hi there, friends. Welcome to another episode of the No Small Stories podcast. This episode, we have Deena Trudy. Deena is an actress, director, producer, all-around entertainment industry jack of all trades. She's got a great backstory and very interesting things that she's working on. Can't wait for you to enjoy this conversation. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the No Small Stories podcast. Today, we have with us Deena Trudy. Hello. So happy to have you, actress and producer. And I would love for you to give whatever introduction to the audience you think is most appropriate for you.
Thank you very much. Actress, producer, director, writer.
And known for Token Choke Dispensary, which I have checked out on YouTube. That's fun. And I know that you have an upcoming movie in post-production, a film version, correct?
Yeah, thank you for checking that out. I really appreciate that. That little web series that I did there. I actually took a look back at that the other day, so it's funny you bring that up. Yeah, the film, we did go ahead and I made a feature film about kind of about the show, not really. You know, it's a different element, but we do have the same Ronnie, the owner of the dispensary in the film. Excuse me. So, yeah.
Very fun. So that project that you have, I know, is in post-production. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, you are doing more sort of independent, I guess you would say, work, right? You know, you're sort of in the trenches, if you will, right? You're having to do the hard work, right? So can you talk a little bit about what that project is like for you to, you know, kind of from start to finish, put it together, get your crew together? You know, what was your process?
Yeah, it's definitely a process. In the trenches is a good, I guess way to say it. Because you kind of are in the trenches in a way, as an independent producer. So from start to finish, I don't want to bore anyone, but from start to finish, it's a process that kind of starts with an inception. You know, it's a creation of like a story. Okay, so what you have is a story that you're producing. For me, for Token Choke Dispensary, it was a film that was an idea between me and my production partner, Shanna, and together we kind of came up with this idea of basically a dispensary. It was based on this dispensary that already exists in Token Choke world, Token Choke Dispensary, and this place that basically it gets robbed by the DEA, and it's kind of a dirty deal with the DEA. Not exactly robbed. Okay, they get taken. Their stuff gets taken legally because of the fact that it's a marijuana dispensary. There's kind of a glitch in the system as far as the legality for it. So, federal agencies can come in and they can take the money or the products that are in these dispensaries. So when I found out about that, I kind of incorporated it into the idea of the film. And then the film being also kind of like a love triangle with Ronnie, the main character, and his old friend from school, and
you have to have you have to have those like interpersonal, the small character stories, right, or the individual character stories, I should say, along with like the overarching. So is this something that is just out of the fun of creating and the enjoyment aspect of it, or do you have some, I don't know, I guess maybe you would say like a little bit of activism in terms of, is there any element of that in what you do, sort of maybe bringing to people's attention the way that these things kind of work?
When I put together the film, a lot of it has to do with, it's a movie, so it's, kind of over the top, it's over dramatized.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, bringing to the forefront maybe like an abuse of power in a way, because we have a character that's one of the head DEA agents, and he's kind of over the top, So Connor, and so yeah, I think definitely in the system, there are people that abuse power in all types of different careers, but in this particular film, yes, we are showing that, a lot of that. for sure.
Very interesting, but also having a good time, right? Because,
Oh yeah, it's a fun movie. I mean, that's what it's all about. There's a lot
right.
of other elements to it, but yeah, that's the main focus for the movie.
I really, comedy I think is one of the things that you can sort of tell any story through comedy, right? You can bring
That's
the
true.
the drama and the sort of life lessons, and you can play with societal overarching themes and things like that. Comedy really can make anything approachable, I like to think.
Yeah, like comedy lightens it up. I agree with you. For me, with my production partner, she writes a lot of comedy and I write some comedy, but when I read, her initial draft for the script, I thought it was really hilarious. Just like
Hmm.
a lot of stuff in there. It's just like, if it has me laughing, then
It's a good project to jump onto,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So we're putting across the message, but also definitely, yeah, really fun and kind of over the top comedy in this one. So
I dig it. Sometimes you want a little bit of over the top. It's good to You got to bring the fun in life, right? It's
mhm.
important.
Yeah.
So, what kind of things then would you say you are typically writing, or what might you be working on right now? Like, what would you put in the realm of your style, your personal style?
Yeah, so after basically, but just finishing on that one thought quickly with the production,
Mhm.
after finishing like the script and getting that all done with the initial draft, we go through it and do a few drafts. So we're really happy with that final script. So we're ready to get it into process to shoot it. And
Mhm.
then just quickly breaking down all the scenes so that we have all the scenes in the script broken down and we're ready to shoot that script based on a schedule that we have. So let's say there's, 70 or 80 scenes in a script. And maybe 10 of those scenes are, I don't know, at a school, and 10 of those scenes are, at a house. You want to schedule it out. So you're doing all of that first, those house scenes and the school scenes, depending on availability, etc.
So, are you? I guess how one woman show is it? I guess, or how you're a smaller when you're a project where you're getting these things off the ground yourself, right? So you're playing multiple roles, right? So like you're having
That's
to
right.
do scheduling and finding the locations and having to get set up and make sure everyone is in the right place at the right time.
Yep, that's a really good point. And that's exactly what I would do. I would go and meet personally with people that had locations that I thought were going to be appropriate for different scenes and check out their locations. And then basically kind of have to beg them to use that location because I'm on such a
Yeah.
low budget. So, but
Hmm.
at that point, get those days locked in and hope that the cast and the crew are available on those days to shoot those scenes. So, yes, I do have to put all that together. And first, I do hire on all the crew, like you're talking about, hire on
Hmm.
all the crew. It's kind of an extensive casting process. Since it's independent, I don't have as much help from, larger casting agencies. So I have to directly approach those casting agencies, and I'm kind of familiar with
Hmm.
because I've been an actor in the industry for about 15 years, like
Right.
Actors Access Casting, networks, that kind of thing
So
for
it's good probably for you to have seen it from the actor's perspective, so you kind of know how to approach people for casting when you're coming at it from a director producer perspective.
I think so. I think so. It makes it a lot easier for me to work with the actors. I feel like,
Hmm.
it's kind of a harmonic situation on set. And that's what it's all about. Yeah, definitely the connection and the trust on set. So for
Very
everybody.
cool. I love it. So, are you also editing and doing all the post production, or do you have a team for that? Is that I get, and
Good
that's
question. Good
yeah,
questions. Yeah. So
because the post production is really just as big anymore as the actual production element.
right. Yeah. Post production is a huge part of this. And, with the pandemic and the shutdown and the time that people were really spending more at home, it was a lot
Hmm.
of remote post production. And with my lack of financing,
Hmm.
yes, I did initially work with an independent, like editor that I
Hmm.
was working with for the film. So we did that for about 9 months or so. And I cut together the whole movie. I started working most people work with editing. They work in Premiere or like Final Cut Pro, if you know
Oh
editing
yeah.
softwares.
Hmm.
I taught myself in DaVinci Resolve because I thought I was going to be working more the color with the film, but DaVinci Resolve for me was a comfortable program, so I work a lot in that program now. And now moving forward, though, I am working with an editor, finalizing the film. So I got very lucky, and I'm extremely grateful for all the help I've gotten. I got an editor that was just a really great guy and just a phenomenal editor to do a promo for us for the movie, maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And that's online right now. That's the most recent promo for the film. And but the movie is being edited by someone different right now. And so it's coming to kind of a final product at this point. So I'm very excited.
No, I'm sure it's really exciting when you've been sort of watching the process, right? And things continue to unfold. It's like once you're getting to the point where it's sort of ready to be a finished product, I'm sure it's like Christmas coming, right? Ready to open that present and just see the final product.
It's a very strange feeling indeed. Just because, it's like I did produce a couple of other things like you talked about. I did the web series, which was 4 episodes of a web series that I had like almost no money to do that. But with my production partner, she had written the 4 episodes, and then I produced and directed them. She produced them with me. And so we did that on like a 10-day shooting schedule for 4 episodes. And that was obviously very difficult. And then I did do some test shooting and shot about 70% of another feature too, called Ganked, that I might go back to at some point in the future.
Okay, very interesting. So it sounds to me like you kind of keep a lot of irons in the fire all the time, right? Is that accurate to say?
I would say I like to stay busy, but recently, it's been kind of like a slowdown for the past, couple of years, really. And with things picking up in 2024, I know it's going to be busy, but it's like I've had a long enough break to where I don't even want to take much more of a break.
Ready to throw yourself in feet first, right?
I'm ready to jump in the water. I'm ready to jump off the cliff or whatever.
Right? I'm with it. I dig it. So cool. So then you did say that we were talking about how you do write a little bit too. So talk maybe about your style, and I would like to get you do have an interesting backstory, a personal life story, and I would love to get so I'm sure some of your style, you're writing like any creator, right? It comes from our personal experience. It comes from, the things we've been through in life, and how do you sort of channel that into something creative? Do you see that in your own writing style? So, your personal story and how that translates into your creativity.
Yeah, I think that my background definitely has an impact on my writing style. I started writing when I was a kid, just short stories or like poems and like little stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But then like growing up as a teenager, I think that, I basically what happened was I got in trouble when I was a kid. So I got arrested when I was pretty young, like 13 years old. And then as a teenager, in these different places that I, spent a lot of time in, like juvenile facilities, I did a lot of writing, creative writing, mostly stories that I kind of was just coming up with over spending like long periods of time by myself, and also going through just kind of like unusual circumstances, I guess you would say, over a period of years. So yeah, it created who I am today, my writing style, and what I'm putting across on the screen moving forward with my projects. So
How would you maybe define your personal style, or what sort of, I don't know, I guess is there an energy, I would say, to the work that you do, or is there something that you are moving towards in the projects you work on?
yeah, I think that with every project it is different. And just kind of moving forward with the first one, I am really focusing on having, looking at a result of something that I'm really, really happy with here in the post-production process. So it's focusing on one thing at a time. But yes, I do have kind of a future vision for myself as a filmmaker and, you know, as a creator, as an actor, um, in this realm. Yeah, it is an energy that, you know, kind of transpires through the work, through the writing, and then through the film. Um, it's hard to explain that energy because I kind of think that words don't really do it justice. It's more of a
Hmm.
feeling that you get really when you look at it. And that's really what inspired me to film in the first place, is really the feeling. I mean, sure, it's of course it's words, it's dialogue, you know, between characters, but it's feelings that come through. It's, you know, it's just something special that really you're trying to bring across to the world. So that's what I'm trying to do with what I'm bringing with my project.
I love that because that's where, something I do, like abstract art, it's one of the other things that I do. And
Mhm.
I'm with you on that, where it's like, you feel like what works is the energy that you put into it, right? Like it's not necessarily, maybe what I do doesn't look like, a vase full of flowers, right? Because it's more abstract, but it's communicating an energy to your audience, right? And I think that if you really tap into that energy that you feel is really resonates with you, and you use that to create, like, you're going to put an energy into it that will draw in an audience that is your audience, right? Like
Mhm.
that's one of the things we talk about on the podcast a lot, is sort of that, what that challenge is sometimes, of like building your audience and building sort of a following, and getting attention to your work, right? But I think that maybe a little bit, and I, speak to this if you agree with it or not, but I do think that sometimes just doing the project, doing the work, creating the whatever it is that you're creating, if you put like yourself and your energy into it, the right people are going to be drawn to it. You
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's totally true. With my project Token Choke Dispensary, of course, you're going to immediately think that the right people that would be involved, that would try and get involved, are going to be all people that smoke weed. And
Yeah.
because, all right, Token Choke Dispensary. But I wouldn't really say that's the case. I mean, yeah, a lot of the people that were involved are, you know, weed smokers. I just call it
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
But not everyone. And you know, the movie, a lot of, like, there will be people that'll ask me like, "Oh, Token Choke Dispensary, so you're making kind of like a Cheech and Chong type movie?"
Right.
No, I did not make a Cheech and Chong type movie. I can't compare it to anything really that I've seen um, out there. Not because I tried to do something completely different. I mean, I'm not trying to do something that's already out there either way, but it's not comparable to something that's already been like made, because the movie doesn't focus just on weed, even though
Right.
the
It
dispensaries.
it's more of a, would you say, in the environment that it's in, then it's so
Yeah,
not the Cheech and Chong sort of themed movie, right? Where it's like just what you would just maybe say, it's just stoner movie, right? But
yeah, it's not just like, yeah, no, there really is like a story going on. There's like important,
right.
there's a story that goes on. We follow a storyline with the characters. Not that you don't in Cheech and Chong, but I'm saying that they, you know,
But
it's
it
not just, we're not smoking weed for sure. You know,
right. There's a
focused
message.
on. Yeah.
I like that concept because I like the idea of an environment that might be considered controversial, right? Obviously, it's not legal everywhere, and some people are going to be touchy about it. There are people who would maybe see that and just automatically reject it or avoid it because they assume that that's all there is to it, right? But to create something in an environment where that environment is not the focus, I like that juxtaposition. I like that, sort of normalizing it a little bit, right? Making it less of a big deal than it might otherwise be by making it secondary.
Right. That's a very good point and super interesting. And I really like the way you put that, and agree with it too. And yes, like, especially for people like my mom and dad, like, I'm going to use them as an example.
No,
Okay.
do.
Yeah, so they don't, smoke weed. My mom now, she's had a couple of surgeries, like surgeries on her back, and she's taken
Hmm.
pain medication in the past. So she's tried it because it's been prescribed by, a doctor for her to try that. And
Hmm.
she thinks that it helps her. It's not something that she does often, but she does, admit that it does help when she does try it. My dad, maybe he smoked some weed like in the 60s, but he's not smoking weed now that I know of. But I think that, it's like the movie would appeal to my parents based on like some other context of the film, So it's like, oh
Right.
well, Token and Choke Dispensary. We're not
Don't
that interested in watching a movie about weed.
Right, but draw an audience in that, like, hey, there's things here that are unexpected. And I love that. I think that's great too, because so, I'm from South Dakota. It's a conservative state. I would definitely say, a touchy subject here kind of thing.
We
But
touch on also Ronnie, the main character, his mother is like in a nursing facility. And, we touch on that just a little bit because I think it's something that there's a lot of just issues that are just have gone on, I don't know, over the past few years with like older people, like especially after the pandemic. And
mhm,
just like, so there's a little bit touching on that too, and just various things too at the beginning of the movie, like younger Ronnie, like how we show in the trailer, we show Ronnie when he's a kid before he actually, becomes a dispensary owner. He's kind of like a stoner kid, and Moby, his friend who runs the dispensary with him, is kind
yeah.
of like bullied. He's kind of like bullied, he's not the cool kid or whatever. So,
Mhm.
so we touch on, it's like bullying. When I was a kid, growing up, I dealt with that a little bit because I moved around a lot when I was a kid. So even though I'm a girl, I still dealt with like a lot of bullying. I don't know
Mhm.
why growing
Oh,
up,
great.
but
Girls can be just as mean as boys.
I guess that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know how it is. It's like, so, I mean, when you're 7, 8, 9, this is like third and fourth grade.
Well, and yeah, it is interesting though, just to have again that those different themes put together, because isn't that kind, how life is, right? Like, it's not all one thing. You can't just look at, don't judge a book by its cover, right? It's a cliche for a reason. Don't just look at this and see one element. Like, we deal with a lot of different elements in the narrative, and there's there's more to what you're working on, or what the message that you're putting out, or the story that you're telling, than just the environment that it's in. It's a part of it, right? But I love that. I just sort of like that mixed salad bowl of all those interesting things that you put together.
Yeah, there's some elements in there, and you mentioned the other things I'm writing, so I am working on some other stuff too. The film that I wrote, Vulture Canyon, that one I'm going to produce later on, which is inspired by some things in my own life, and that's based on like an all girls juvenile prison. So it's based on like not a juvenile hall type movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically if you okay, so this happened to me. So I got arrested a couple of times when I was a kid and went to the juvenile hall in
Mm-hmm.
Arizona. And in Arizona, after you go to the juvenile hall, maybe like for 7, 8 times, you get committed to a prison. You get a commitment time. It could be
Okay.
3 months, 6 months, and this you're under 18, so it's for children under 18. So you can be any age. You could be, I mean, the youngest kid there that I saw when I was there maybe was about 10 or 11. So maybe between the ages of 11 and 17. Once you're 18, you're considered an adult in the state of Arizona. So I wrote a script about that. It's kind of like not exactly just a drama. It's more like a drama thriller.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's very, I mean, that's interesting too, though, that you can be, again, looking at things through the lens of different genres. Like, you can do a like Token Choke Dispensary that has the comedy element, but then you can go to that flip side to the, I guess, I don't know if you want to say ugliness, but the horror side, the thriller side, the drama side. Do
Yeah,
you
it is. It's
I wonder if, this is based on personal experience, but definitely, like, even just listening to it has to be a powerful story. And because you think about it's kind of a circumstance that society or the public doesn't want to look at, right? The idea that there are these places and like for kids, and it's like shouldn't kids be having fun, like, and enjoying themselves? Like, shouldn't kids always be in a space where whatever had happened to get you to that place was, it's like it's not your fault, right? I wonder,
Yeah,
do you ever have a feeling of, I don't want to say gratitude necessarily, but that if you had not experienced what you experienced and seen what that was, as unpleasant as it might have been, that you might not have been able to come to this place of being a creative person who could write a story about it and present that story to the world.
absolutely. I mean, there would be no way that I would be able to write this story and present it to the world if it had not happened in my life. And it's kind of like, sure, I think that different forms of treatment can be done to help kids. It wasn't that I did nothing at all. I did commit crimes to get arrested, and that's why I went to these to jail as a kid. But yeah, I think that there could obviously be better ways to help children, that need help, in that way.
Right. That to see it as children being in a space of needing help and not looking at it as, oh, you're bad because you committed a crime or what, I mean,
Right.
how much can you really recognize the consequences of your act when you're that young? I mean, a child that would be 10, like,
Yeah. I mean, I
how
agree with you completely.
how much can you really understand what a crime is?
Sure, I agree with you. And I think it's like, with human development, it's been, and I'm not a doctor, but just from what I recall, pretty sure that your brain is still developing over those adolescent years. So, as the brain is developing, like I said, we do touch on things, and that I touch on things in that film, that like solitary confinement, um, and full body restraints, used on me, and
That's
that kind of.
awful.
So, but and it's not something that I'm looking for some kind of sympathy about. I'm just letting you know what's in the movie.
Well,
In
but
the
it's I mean, definitely amazing that you share it and that
Thank you.
you're willing to tell that story, because I'm, obviously it must be difficult emotionally to, even just to write it. But, again, what it's a story that should be told, right? I mean, it's one of those, like, people should recognize and be able to understand sort of the other side of the coin, right? Like, you might look at someone like, I have feel like, or have a sense that, kids who go to places like that are judged as sort of being a lost cause, being bad, being without direction, or you can't fix them, sort of thing. But like, look at you, you've taken it and you're going to a creative place with it, and you've become a creative person, and you use, you were able to channel where you were and whatever the difficult things were that brought you to that place into something positive. you know what a great, just a great example for anyone who could look at that and say, I come from a story like that, but look at what she's done, right? I think that just that you're willing to put that story out there and be that example to anyone who might see it and see themselves in it, I think that's really great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really do. And yes, it was hard for me to write the story. It wasn't something that I did, like immediately or anything like
Oh,
that.
right. Yeah, no, I'm sure lots of time has to go by to make it okay to visit that and create the
Yeah,
story, for sure.
yeah. It wasn't something I planned on. Also, I didn't plan on producing anything at all, to be totally upfront with everyone here, who sees this.
Mm.
I only planned on acting really in my life. I got a business degree when I got out of this facility when I was 18, and I was just acting. I really did. I love acting. I've been acting and writing since I was, young. But as far as producing, I didn't think about it until about 10 years ago in 2013 when I did the web series. And that's when I really decided that I should like make the stories into actual screenplays. I did have Vulture Canyon, but just not like polished up. Then I wrote 7, 8 drafts, really kind of
Mm-hmm.
getting the script where I want it to be. So yeah, when I eventually produced that one, and as far as the change in genre and kind of jump, it's like Token Choke is definitely kind of like a crime movie too. We've definitely got some gritty stuff going on, even though it's comedy. And the
Mm-hmm.
movie that I have not put out yet, Ganked, is about 2 girls that rob a drug dealer. So the niche, it follows in a way, but like I think when you see the films, it's kind of like you'll be able to recognize that it's one of my films based on the style. So when the first one comes out, I guess we'll all see together, and then I can kind of get everyone's opinion on, how they feel about it moving forward with my other projects too.
I love it. I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be great.
Thank you.
I do so what really does inspire you to, I don't know, I guess keep at it, as it were, obviously we live in a world that doesn't always necessarily value creativity. We're certainly getting better post pandemic, right? People like being locked in the lockdown had to get creative, right? Or had to use their creative talents that maybe they weren't before. So, I think people have started to recognize the value in creativity and the value in this, putting your content, your stories, your films, your whatever it is out there. Um, what is it that, through all of this, since you were acting pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, what keeps you hungry for it, I guess you would say? What inspires you to keep going?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's weird because sometimes really I even ask myself the same question, and I literally
Why do I keep
cannot
going?
stop. I can't stop. That's why I can't stop creating. So basically what's going on is I just keep creating more and more because I literally cannot stop. So
I'm with
so
you.
it's like, yeah, so that's, I mean, and at this point, it's like, and I've also created some things like, okay, yeah, production was put down, that there's been an actor strike, there's been all kinds of things
Mm-hmm.
going on, but it's kind of like working through those things and doing things in my own way in order to move forward. So thinking outside of that box and how do I move forward? So I am I am constantly, there is something inside of me that drives me. Maybe you would call that an energy too.
For
Something
sure.
inside of me drives me for sure to keep going. So I do that. And yes, I have had sure a lot of people, especially people even in my own family, that think I'm crazy. Right. There's not people in my
Right.
family who are in the industry or artists or creating anything. They're more, I'm not putting them that type of lifestyle down, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, being an artist is different than other careers. You don't really understand it, I guess. You don't understand, people might like my mom or my dad might say, I'm not saying they're saying it now, but like, what are you doing exactly? What is it that you do? Right.
Right.
Nobody gets it. So I've gotten that a lot. Yeah. I felt pretty badly. Like I've not really actually, done enough because, creation is something that's just not understood, by
I
everyone.
think that is very true. And that's something that we do kind of talk about too, as on the podcast, the it's a path less traveled when you decide to go the creative route, you know. So there's not always a lot of support for what you're trying to do from the people around you, right? Because you're right, they just don't get it when it comes to creativity, that there is a spark in you that drives you forward and you can't really explain it or define it. You just know that this is what this is who you are a creator, and you have to go out and you have to create. And not everyone necessarily is able to accept that, right? And so what we do talk about, the value of sort of building a creative community, right? Doing things like podcasts, meeting people, networking, the value of just meeting like-minded people. and
Yeah.
because you
Cool.
never know who you're going to meet that's going to be like the next key to a project, the next person that you're going to collaborate with. So can you talk a little bit about that? What what has it been like for you in your building of a creative community and plugging yourself into, the parts of society, I guess you will, or the little places where you do fit in and where you are accepted and where this creativity is something that is not just supported but that others are excited about.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's like finding that place where there are other like-minded creatives. So of course, for me, when I was a kid, it started with theater and getting involved in theater. But then
Okay.
when I moved, my family, we moved from New Jersey to Arizona when I was like, I don't know, 12 years old. That's when I got arrested when I was like 13. My mom and dad divorced. I was involved in theater. I felt like theater was the place where like-minded like kids were, and
Mm-hmm.
like I told you, I don't know, like at school, I didn't have that many friends. But then when I started getting in trouble and whatever, I had friends, but they weren't really like friends. So I
Yeah.
wanted to be okay. So after the whole thing ended and I getting involved with the community networking, once I got out of this facility like when I realized I wanted to keep acting and like get involved, like find out like independent productions. Maybe I can do a short film. Maybe I can. So I got
Mm-hmm.
involved with the independent film community in Arizona and just like started meeting people and hanging out with like independent like directors, producers, and like see like who's
Mm-hmm.
doing what film, what can I audition for. So I worked for like no money, little to no money to make like short films that like I could act in and learn. And then just moving forward, when eventually I saved up some money with my production partner Shanna, moved out to Los Angeles. It's like a 6 hour drive from Arizona. We took everything out there to LA. I got cast in a little independent film called Chihuahua, the movie, not the
Yep.
Beverly Hills Chihuahua, not the big one with Reese, the littler one.
No, I did
And
see the trailer for that one though, and it did look quite cute.
thank you. Yeah, it did get seen by a lot of people. There were kids that told me they really liked it, and I'm, proud of myself because, I didn't
Yeah.
get paid a lot, but I was in it. It was on Amazon. I think it streamed, probably, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It streamed in a lot of countries. So that was cool. I did a couple other movies for Netflix, Amazon. I was also on some big sets where I networked. Like when I went on Thor, I was on Thor for
Yeah.
4 days, which was awesome. And I met Anthony Hopkins, which was just so cool to be able to
Very
watch him
cool.
and just but like networking, meeting people along the way, just various people involved in the camera departments, different
Mm-hmm.
actors. Anytime I find a like-minded individual, we have good conversation, I connect, and I kind of try and keep that connection for the future. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
And
worth it.
absolutely. And it's, so another person we had talked to is a voice actor, BZ Collins, BZ the voice. And he kind of said the same thing, that when he's on a set, it's not just about the big names. You want to meet them, sure, and say hi, hello, introduce yourself, but get to know the crew, get to know the other people that are doing the things that you're doing, get to know the people that have things to talk about that, if you're a director, producer, you want to talk to the people who are the camera people, you want to talk to the people who are doing the sound, you want to, so building a network really, it's seeing the value in the pieces that everyone does, right? Like not just the thing, like not just the face of things, but the value of everyone who's a part of the production, and when you're putting it together yourself, obviously you understand that there's a lot of moving parts that not everyone necessarily thinks about.
Yeah, moving parts is a good thing too. I was just talking about that the other day. It's moving parts. It's all with a production. It has to move all smoothly, kind of like I talk about like a car, a well-oiled
Mm-hmm.
machine moving smoothly, and everyone on the crew working together in a team. So bringing everyone onto the team for me, I like to do a crew meeting when I first start out, get everybody, to meet each other and see how everyone's getting along together. If there's any problems, it's kind of like a chain of command on an independent set because
Yeah, you
you're
almost have
working
to be like mom and director, right? Like,
yeah,
you gotta make
you
sure the
do.
kids are all getting along.
Yeah, you have to make sure everyone's getting along. I usually tell people, like, come to me if there's a problem. And my first assistant director will say, no, no, don't go to her because she's the director and she's trying to think, come to me to chain of command. But I'm like, no, no, if there's like a real issue, you have something to say, come directly to me. I always say that. I always want people to feel comfortable that they, no matter, even if I am the director, I'm on the set, I look busy, but there's something pertinent. If there's something pertinent. Now, if you're
Mm-hmm.
asking some bullshit, if you're asking some trash,
No,
that's
that's
somebody
fine.
else that I
Yeah.
don't have time. But if it's
Right.
serious, yeah, I do. I always have time for everyone. There's no one that's like less than someone else. We need the entire machine to make the car run, just like anything else. So it's just, yeah, it's that well-oiled machine, working together for that
Yeah,
final point.
absolutely. I wonder if you can like talk a little bit then too about so just kind of the idea of like being the mom of the set, right? I don't know, and maybe you've seen sort of a shift since you've been in the industry, since a young age. Have you seen a shift or do you see sort of improvement being a woman in the industry? Sort of how you're treated, how you're seen, how people work with you.
Sure. I mean, I think the way I think about it, when I think about a mom, I mean, I'm not a mom myself. I don't have any kids. My mom always like tried to keep me in line the best that she could. My mom and dad divorced when I was 12, so it was my mom by herself with me and my two brothers. So
Mm-hmm.
as far as being a mom, I don't really necessarily look at myself as a mom just because I'm not one. On the set, I don't necessarily look at the crew as kids. I look at them as employees on a set and part of a team. We're all part of a team and we're there to get a mission done. It's almost too like I compare it with the team, with the crew, not necessarily with the cast. And even though we all come together in the creation at the end of this product, with the crew moving really like a military unit as one unit so that we can make sure that we accomplish the mission in the time that we have allotted. With an independent feature, you only have so much time. So for me to sit around and maybe think about, oh well, these are my kids, let me babysit them, I don't have time to do any of that. Like I mentioned before, I'm not a mother. When I think about my own mother, she didn't have time for any of that either. If I caused a problem, she let me know. And we know how that was dealt with. It was dealt with by the law in Arizona that came in and kind of took control of me at that point. So when I get on a set, I think of it as we come together as a team. We're going to handle it as a team with the cast. It's a kind of a different harmony kind of situation where I have to work a lot one-on-one with each cast member, with the character, and it's just the whole, it's and rehearsing, and there's a lot of fun involved with that for me, and
Mm-hmm.
there's fun for them, and so there's just so many elements for making an independent film that I could go on and on about it uh, for hours. But when I think about the word mom in association with me on a set, it just doesn't. It would not make sense to anyone you talk to that's dealt with me, and it
So
doesn't
that's
make
it's
sense to me.
it's interesting though, so there's sort of and I don't know, maybe this is just an old paradigm, but like a sort of classic idea of like women being viewed a certain way and maybe not being as respected in the positions that you are taking up, right? Being a director, being a producer, taking charge, being the leader of a team, right? So, but it's a little interesting to me because I think I'm a little bit similar in that like if you don't have that sort of like relationship growing up where there's like that motherly figure that's more motherly than authority figure, like you don't see yourself in that sort of way, and so people just don't see you in that way because it's not how you present, right? So
Yeah,
I think that that's interesting, like that's that maybe there's a misconception of the way that women are viewed, partially because there's this definition that we all have thought for so long we had to have of ourselves, right, as women. But if you see
it's a good
yourself
point.
as just being the leader of this project,
Yeah,
then
I
the,
mean, I
the
don't think
gender
it's a
element doesn't have to be a part of it.
That's totally correct. The gender element does not have to be a part of it. Of course, I'm a woman,
Hmm.
but taking it from like the perspective of, am I going to handle it different than a man would in this particular situation? I don't know for sure. All I can tell you is how I did handle it and how I personally think about it. And
Hmm.
no, I don't think about it like a gender thing or anything like that. That's just the way I am. Um, I mean, what can I
No,
say?
I think that's really great though, that it's, it's something that, well, it doesn't come into play for me because it's not something that comes into play in my own mind. Right. So
Yeah,
just that, sort of that angle that I think for creatives, sometimes we can be a little bit overthinkers, right? We can sometimes delve too much into elements of things that aren't necessarily like, we don't have to be thinking about those things. You don't have to think about all the, just because everyone else is having the conversation about, how genders interact or are treated in the industry doesn't mean that you have to operate from a place of that being true for you. Be who you
right.
are, be the you that you are called to be, right? Because that's what keeps you going and creating. And it's not an issue because
Yeah.
you're not looking at it.
No, I'm not. And, it's something that's, if it comes up, I mean, things like this, of course, okay, being a female in the industry, the way I look, people, I mean, I know how I am in the industry, who I am and what I am and what
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing. But in general, okay, if something like comes up, I just kind of deal with things the way I deal with things. Of course, as a female in the industry, I've dealt with all kinds of different people, all kinds of different opinions, thoughts, and comments. But I've had overall good feedback from what I've done and what I'm doing. So I feel positive about it, and I'm just trying to be who I am and bring forth, what I want to, here in this lifetime.
What you want to create. It's not right. None of the other chatter in the background matters, right? The peanut gallery can go on doing whatever they do as long as you like, I have my path, I have my mission, I'm on it.
That's right. They can F off.
That's right, 100%. No, I love it. I think that's great. And I do love that energy because I think that that is for creative people where we need to put our focus, that it's not about the chatter, it's not about the noise, it's about just keep creating, keep doing, keep following that thing. And, you know, it's bound to work out for you somehow, some way, because you're just being you.
Thank you very
Right.
much. For you too, as an artist.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Because I really do. I agree with that energy and I appreciate that perspective because, I think that that kind of energy and that perspective is where we all need to be heading, not just in the entertainment and creative industry, but just across the board, just to learn to be yourself and not be so concerned with all the rest of it that's out there. Because if it's not you and what you need to be doing, don't worry about it.
That's exactly true. And then coming up into 2024, which is what we're about to come into, we're probably right in the same age range. It's like moving
Yeah.
into this 2024, boom. It's like this is yeah, it's like, all right, it's like Gen Z. What is it?
I think technically we're millennials or whatever, but
Yeah, a millennial. Yeah,
yeah,
millennial. Okay, so we're millennials, and like we got the millennials, the Gen Z, and the Gen X. Is it the Gen X?
I'm not sure.
All right,
I
well, we got the three. All right, moving into 2024, it's this whole new group of people and new innovative ideas, new
yes.
innovative ways to make projects. And I'm not going to go on a tangent about this, but moving
No,
into,
it's
VR,
definitely
AR.
I'll have to have you on for another of my podcasts because this is definitely a conversation that I really enjoy also is the kids that are coming up now, like you're saying, like this whole new next generation that's coming up now,
Yeah.
the jobs they're going to have don't exist yet.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. And the people who do know the few things about, no, like, I don't know.
and the platforms that they're going to
GPT.
create on, right? Like it's going to be a whole new world. Look at it, the things that have changed over the course of our lifetime, just looking at like the internet and YouTube and the access that you have to creating things and putting your stuff out there. the generations coming up are only going to make it that much easier and only going to create things that facilitate more of that creativity, more of that, ability to be independent and put yourself out there, whatever your creativity or your thing is, so very
Totally.
exciting just to think about what's coming.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just like, yeah, I mean, just self producing, like just with content, TikTok, I know what you're saying, stuff like that. And, like it's just totally blown up. And I think it's
Mhm.
awesome too, to be able to like see like, just creations that are just like, whoa, you're like, where did this come from and how did I find it? So you're finding
Right.
talent that's totally undiscovered. And just cool ways to be able to do that now. Yeah, moving forward, like stuff that we're not going to believe, but yeah, the platforms
But
are
it's
huge.
absolutely coming, and it's
Totally.
gonna be wild, right?
It's going to be wild, but it's going to be awesome. And it's just like moving forward into that, that next phase. So that's what's going on, and like we're ready for it. The millennials and all and
I
all,
I'm
all
with
that.
you. We're ready for it. We're ready to see
Ready.
the next big shift and the next big change, whatever that is. I do appreciate that. I appreciate your positive energy on that because I know that we all know that's not always the line that we get told, right? The more positive, hopeful outlook. And I
Right.
really, that's where I try to live. That's the space that I want to, come from in all my projects. So I really appreciate just that, you know, looking forward, always looking ahead to the next thing, right? Always having that positive mindset for something good is coming next, right?
That's right. Yeah, looking forward, constantly looking forward, and something good is coming next.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of looking at that and visualizing that next thing, it's exciting. It's a lot of work, so stress comes into play, but yeah, it is very exciting, it's very exciting. And we're coming here to the new year. I keep talking about that because I just know that 2024 is a really great one, moving into it here. So
Because we're here and we're ready for it, right? We're ready for
yeah.
the next big things to pop. And so do tell before we wrap up here, do tell everyone where can people find you, find your projects, and what do you have coming up? So plug all your stuff.
Okay. And thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
thought
you
it was
so
a
much
great
for
talk.
being here. This is
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
You're gonna
That
have to
was a
come
great
back
talk.
for another of my podcasts because I feel like we could just keep rolling on so many things.
Yeah. I know we had a good talk. Well, on Instagram, just Deena Trudy. So DeenaTrudy. Deena Trudy on Instagram, on social media, like on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and anywhere, LinkedIn, Facebook, not Facebook. Let's see where else. Token Choke probably on Twitter. You do Token Choke on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, tokenchoke.com, stuff like that. So,
And
like,
we'll put all your links in the description below too, and make sure
cool.
that people can go click on them, find you, and check out what you're working on. And again, so appreciate you being here. Love your story. I love that you can keep that positive outlook, that that you can keep creating, and that you're willing to put out the tough stories from your youth to be again that example of doesn't really matter where you start. And that's kind of the point of this podcast, that there are no small stories, right? Everything can turn into something amazing if you allow it.
It's true.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Deena
Thank
Trudy.
you.
Thank you for being here. It's been great, and we can't wait to see when Token Choke comes out. And do keep us up to date too, so we can share when you have your other projects out.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi again, friends. That was my conversation with Deena Trudy. Do check out all of her links below and be on the lookout for her Token Choke feature film that is in post-production currently. If you'd like to support more of the No Small Stories podcast, you can subscribe to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/no small stories. And of course, you can like, comment, share, and leave a review wherever it is that you happen to be listening to this podcast. All those good things that listeners and viewers can do. We thank you so much again for tuning in. And until next time, friends, wherever you are out there, I hope you're doing well.